Hi, folks. I actually know most of y'all, but my name is Allison Butler. I'm the director of Denver's Division of Disability Rights. We are housed in the Human Rights and Community Partnerships Agency. And I guess we're going to say this at the end, but now it feels weird. Our agency is led by Perla Geller. She is our new executive director as of a couple of weeks ago. We're really excited about that. Our division we're super lucky. When the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, was passed in 1990, they required that all cities of a certain size, including Denver, have ADA coordinators to make sure that the city is complying with the Americans with Disabilities Act and other disability rights laws. We're really lucky because we have 8 of us here, and several of us are on this call. Joan is going to be talking to y'all in just a minute. Christina is on camera. Thank you, Christina. I saw Spencer Pocock on here, as well as Megan Catalfamo. We're really excited to have a big crew who our charge is to make sure that the city understands and follows the disability rights laws, but we can only do that if we're informed by the community. So one of the main reasons we have this town hall is to hear from the community, hear what issues there are, hear what's going well, hear where there are problems or questions. We do have an agenda today that Joan is going to get to and introduce the people that are here. But the goal is to hear from you all. So whether you have questions about anything that's being said or overall things that aren't even being addressed today, please, 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 this is exactly why we're here. In addition to the folks, I think Joan's going to go over and do introductions of folks that are going to be speaking to us today. Do we have anybody from any city council members' offices? I know that we were going to have somebody from council person Sarah Parody's office. Is she on the line?
I am here. This is Jessica Zender, and yeah, I'm here from at-large Councilmember Sarah Perry.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us.
You bet. Glad to be here.
All right. Well, I am going to turn it over to Joan at this point to get us started, and I look forward to this conversation.
All right. Well, again, welcome everybody. And so we can kind of get to know everybody that's on the line. I'm going to have you put in chat your name. You can do first, last name, just first name, whichever you're more comfortable with. And just tell us what your favorite holiday food or beverage is. Or if it's both, you can put both in there. And we can just take a few minutes just to kind of go through that. I know Christina is going to help me monitor chat.
He's currently trying to work on the Zoom links. We're having some issues with folks who are over on Teams, so I can look at chat.
Okay. Are you able to see it?
Yeah, we've got Spencer said eggnog, and I'm going to add in very similar but homemade eggnog. I just learned that last year, and it is outstanding. And when you make it at home, the calories don't count is the cool thing. We have apple pie from Ryan. We've got grandma's banana pudding from Mickey. Sweet potato pie from Marilyn. Homemade pecan pie from Tess. Mashed potatoes from Megan. Apple crumble pie. A lot of pies. Chinese food on Christmas from Aaron. We've got a lot of eggnogs, and Curtis is just saying yes, essentially all of it. Noah said that he likes an occasional eggnog along with plenty of cookies and some good old-fashioned ham. Yeah, all of this is really, really good.
Awesome. Well, and I'm surprised people didn't put things like I put stuff in my eggnog, like and make it an adult beverage as well. Some of those Baileys or things like that make it really yummy. But thanks for sharing with that. So this is our agenda. I don't know if you guys can see the screen. The first one up is we're going to be talking with Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, what we call DOTI, because that's a really long name and we like acronyms in the city. And Ryan McCann and William DeWark is going to talk about the programs that they have at Curbside and Parking, which are a lot of them. And some of them we're hoping they might be brand new and you guys might want to check them out a little bit more too. I'll let Ryan and William kind of introduce themselves at this point.
Sounds good. Thanks, Joan. As Joan introduced, I'm Ryan McCann, the on-street program manager for Curbside and Parking. I believe Will is joining through Zoom. He's getting set up right now, but we'll get back to him in a second. So within Curbside and Parking, we have we're a team that's managing the curbside policies, planning, and programs offered throughout the city and county of Denver. The team is supported by 5 sub-teams, which are known as like the on-street program, our off-street program, curbside and planning, permitting, and meter operations. Within the on-street programs that I am managing with my team and Will, we have 6 programs, and we're doing anywhere from 400 to 600 Salesforce cases, those 311 calls you're making to let us know where you want to see some parking changes or a new bike rack. And then that's prompting about 200 to 400 work orders annually, where we have to go out there and install the bike rack or remove the parking sign and put up a new 2-hour parking sign. The programs that support my team or that we work on are one of my favorites, the Accessible Parking Sign Program, which is a brand new, or it's a new program to our team. It's always existed with Dottie and previously was with right-of-way enforcement. We took on that program last year, and it's basically a program that provides the option of pursuing an accessible parking sign in case you are a person with a limited mobility or a disability. Those signs could be, you'll have to meet some criteria, and the signs can be posted adjacent to your address so you can have better access to your residential home. Aside from the accessible parking sign program, we also have the residential parking permit program, where you can pursue a parking permit to be exempted from a 2-hour restriction on your block if you do have that permit restriction in your area. We also have our car share program, which is helping us meet our sustainability goals, our initiatives for less vehicles, miles traveled. I won't get too much of the weeds with that one. Our other programs are valet program, where you might have heard a figure out there, 30% of downtown traffic is usually commuting around, circling around, looking for a parking space. I love valet because you can just go to a valet stand and they will take you to a parking space rather than you circulating around. You just have to spend like $3 on it. Our other program that's near and dear to my heart is our bike parking program, where we provide free bike racks and free on-street bike corrals. So if you're ever interested in seeing a bike rack near your business or wherever you're out and about commuting around, we would love to receive your feedback. And then we also have our right-of-way parking, where it's an informal permitting process where we only have 7 locations of these, but we allow for some kind of vehicle to be parked above the curb. It's not a program that we're really encouraging right now, so should have mentioned that one. Anyways, aside from that, we have our parking permit center that supports the residential parking permit program, and they are issuing about 45,000 permits annually. So it's a lot of work that that team is doing. Our off-street team, they're managing about 7 parking garages, surface lots, city-owned surface lots. Our meter operations, they are collecting the revenue and maintaining 5,600 paid parking assets. That's metered parking or payment stations. And then lastly, our curbside planning team, they are the ones that are drafting like policies, rules and regulations. New rules and regulations for the residential parking permit were established this year. So a lot of curbside and parking work happening in there. And I didn't tell you guys our website. Let me drop that into the chat. All this information can be found online. That was a lot, so apologies. Joan, I'm available for questions, or if you want me to clarify any of those items.
Does anybody have questions of Ryan?
I had a question. What was the valet thing? I didn't understand that part.
Yeah, it's a fun one where his name's Donald Shoup. He's like the parking guru, and there's a metric out there saying that 30% of downtown traffic is usually circulating around just looking for a parking space. So rather than circling around, when you see those valet stands out there, just go to the valet and they'll park the car for you. You don't have to look for a metered space, worry about paying that meter. They'll take it to a parking garage for you.
And is there a list of where those are available, or do the businesses have to apply for it? How does one find out where those specific things are?
Great question. There is not a location of where you'll find valet services, but valet operators can apply to be permitted. They work with like restaurants, businesses. The valet operator goes to, man, I can't even think of a restaurant right now. It's crazy. Starbucks. We'll just say you're gonna get valet for whatever reason at Starbucks. The valet operator would be coordinating with the business property owner, Starbucks, to get a loading zone sign posted in front of their building. And then we issue a permit allowing the valet operators to stage some cones and a stand that says valet. So really, you just have to keep an eye out where those valet services are provided.
And do the businesses have to pay for that? What are they just have to apply for? What is like if a business said, I want to get in on this, what do they need to do? If they had, especially knew that they had a lot of patrons that would benefit from this. There's a lot
Yes.
of Denver residents. What would they do?
Anything in the public right of way usually has a fee to it. So you're not giving anything away for free, except for bike racks for the most part. But for valets, yes, they are typically paying a fee. It just depends on what time they're providing their services. An example would be per our valet ordinance, if they are only operating from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. with 40 feet of right of way, which is 2 parking spaces, they would not have a fee attached to their permits. They might have like a $50 admin fee to issue the permits, but if they go over 24/7 hour, or if they had 80 feet, they would probably be charged. It's based on the linear feet and the times that they're operating. We have a calculator that we can provide for, but the short end of it is it's free if you're operating 40 feet in the evening. Otherwise, anything more than that, you will have a charge, and it might be like $900.
And then
Our
what
city,
about like, I'm sorry,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say, our city attorney office has told us we are the best deal in Denver when it comes to the valet operations. That is the cheapest permitting option that's available right now. One of the cheapest.
And is that available even for, like, let's say the web building wanted to get one? Is that available for city and county departments, or is it only for businesses?
You know, if Web wanted to pursue that, we have talked about it a little bit in curbside and parking. Could we get valet operations so that you could have someone even valeting your bike down so you don't have to go into the parking garage? Yes, that could be pursued, but we have not taken that on.
And then you mentioned the accessible parking for residential. So if I was a resident of Denver, what are the restrictions for that? Is there kind of an area that you have to be in? What does that look like?
Yeah, so some criteria would be considered is, yes, you have to be a Denver resident, you have to have a current driver's license, you need to have an ADA placard, a valid placard or license plates. And that's just for the criteria to submit your application. You don't have to stress or worry, oh, I don't have this thing. Just go ahead and submit your information, and we'll let you know what you're missing. And then it's titled the accessible parking sign program supports more residential uses. So if you're in a neighborhood, you'll more than likely be able to pursue a sign there. If it's in a commercial area, downtown area, there's different questions mechanism for that. But the overall is it's supporting residents for accessibility.
And it's not if I'm a resident, I get a accessible parking space by my house. Anybody with a parking placard could park there. It's not specific to the resident. Is that correct?
Thank you. Yes, it is not exclusive. Just because that you did apply for the space and we did install the space is not Joan's own parking space, not Ryan McCann's parking space. It is open to the public's use. It's just helping create that extra space to help carve out a pocket on that block for accessible parking.
Awesome.
Another criteria would be if you have a garage or a driveway, it's not likely that you'd be approved, but we still encourage you to submit your application so we can review it and let you know. There are some considerations, like maybe you have stairs in the back that are hard to navigate, so it's better less stairs, or there's a ramp in front of your house that we could help locate ADA parking.
Does anybody else have any other questions for Ryan? I'm not seeing any, no hands raised or anything.
Awesome. I
Would
should
you-
mention with the accessible parking sign program, and I mentioned it earlier, we use 311 a lot. So if you ever have any questions or interests, or you're looking for an application, you can reach out to 311. And then also I dropped that parking link where you can find pretty much all the information I'm talking about online.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Joan. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Take care.
So then the next program, especially with this winter, we've heard it's supposed to be one of the worst that we've had. We have Tess Terwin here to talk about the Snow Angel program. Tess, are you on here? Would you like to talk about the Snow Angels?
I am. Good afternoon slash evening. I feel like it gets so dark so quick that it becomes evening in the afternoon. I am a little bit under the weather, so I apologize. I did want to mention the Snow Angels program. So what this program is assist residents in Denver in need of assistance with shoveling their front walks during snowstorms. So it's a volunteer service. It was created under HRCP about 4 years ago. I want to say we started with maybe 30 homes that needed help with a handful of volunteers. And now we've grown to over 640 homes that need assistance, with over 417 volunteers that we have that are assisting those homes. So it's a really wonderful program. This is the largest volunteer snow removal program in the state of Colorado. There are a couple of requirements that you'll need to meet if you are interested. Those are that you have to be a city and county of Denver resident. You do need to be resident or older adult that is physically unable to shovel. Our neighbors who are living with a disability, or folks who are unable to pay for the service. One thing that we do need to make sure that everyone understands is that we are just shoveling the front sidewalks. We do not shovel driveways or front steps. We can't help with removal of downed trees or branches or things like that. This program is designed to really help residents avoid fines that the city can give if you don't clear your front walks within 24 hours of a snowstorm. You can get fined because we need to keep pedestrian walkways clear. So that's why it is only the front sidewalks. A lot of times the volunteers that we pair with these homes, they will go ahead and do front steps and driveways and front walks and things like that, but they understand that they don't have to, because it is just a volunteer thing. We can't impose these rules and restrictions on them. So there's a website that I can put into the chat if you're interested in signing up for that program, if you need assistance or if you know somebody who could be a volunteer. If you could lead them to that website, that would be wonderful. And I'm so sorry, I am kind of foggy. Did I miss anything?
So Tess, how are you doing like on volunteers to do the program? Do you find that you have enough people, or do we need to get the word out that you need volunteers?
I would really like to get the word out more, only because this program, when a snowstorm happens, I go to our map of volunteers and homes needing assistance, and I pair them within blocks of each other. So that way our volunteers are not expected to drive across the city to assist someone. We really do try to make it a neighborhood thing. And so of course there are areas in Denver who don't have volunteers yet. So we are trying to get volunteers in all of our areas. There are times where we have a neighborhood that has 60 homes that need help, and there are 40 people in that neighborhood who can assist, which is wonderful. But we do have some areas we have volunteers and we don't have any homes that have signed up yet. So we really would like to get as many volunteers as possible. We do bribe them with a free shovel. So if that's something that you could share with your communities, that would be wonderful.
And we've seen the shovels in our stuff. They're very nice shovels. But so if, let's say, I saw Kurt on here from Atlantis and they've got a newsletter and they want to put a blurb in their newsletter, would they just email you and ask for, do you have something ready made for people to put in their newsletters about either volunteers or people that might need your services, the program for
Yeah.
Snow Angel?
Yeah, we do. And like I said, I'm going to put the website into the chat and also the email address for the Snow Angels program so that we can be easily reached either way. The information that is on the website is ready to go into any newsletter that might need it.
Awesome. And then a question I have too, I like live in a corner lot. Would they shovel all the sidewalk around it, or is there a certain amount of sidewalks that they'll do?
Yeah, so it is the pedestrian walks. So it is the front walk. So a side, corner lot would be considered. They would do the whole corner, or we would ask them to do the whole corner. And one thing that we did last year, when the volunteers get this email, it says, Dear Snow Angel, there's somebody in your neighborhood who needs assistance at this address. Something that we did last year to help clearly identify the homes to the volunteers was we created these door knockers that said, I am in need of an angel. And so they were identifiable by that. So any new home that needs assistance that signs up this year, they will get a new door knocker in the mail that they will be able to put up if they so choose during a snowstorm so that they can be identified by their volunteer.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions of Tess? We really appreciate you coming on. I know you're under the weather, and we really appreciate you powering through with us.
No problem. Thanks so much for having me.
You can either come off mute or put your question in chat if you have something for Tess.
I'll just say I think it's a fantastic program, and I'm so appreciative that folks do it. And maybe people on here can even sign up to be angels or to get the service, whatever the situation may be. And Joan, I just wanted to ask you, do you know if the people who were trying to register, like as the meeting started, were able to get anything, or is there anything I can do to help?
I think that once the meeting starts, it closes the link. We were able to keep the Zoom bombers off this way, but there are other technical things that happened. So we'll have to tweak it for next time.
Gotcha. Okay.
It looks like we have almost everybody that signed up. So, and I know that everybody got the link that registered of the 30 people that sent it. So that might be in their email that they can.
It was people who were on the Zoom, who were on the Teams, and then they were trying to register, at 4:05 to get in. And so there was just some chatter about it, but yeah, we've had some unfortunate Zoom bombers, so we had to take some different measures.
So this might be a shorter town hall, but right now, because we had some good speakers and tried to think of all the questions that you guys might have with them. So I think they did a great job, but we have a time period when we like to hear, like Allison mentioned in the beginning, we want to hear from the community members and advice on what you guys want to hear about from the city and county would be something we can put in there, and then we can schedule it. We do these quarterly. So any suggestions of what kind of speakers you would like to have, what kind of topics you want to see, we would love to have in this open comment section. And so we'd love to hear from you.
Remember, this can be speaker or questions for the speakers, or just anything that you want to bring up. I didn't mention, but our office has been pretty involved with the city's emergency response right now to both the migrant crisis and the House 1000 effort. And we're working with city officials to make sure that places that we are setting up for folks are accessible and that they're programmatically accessible. So that's been a big part of our work. But if anybody has questions or thoughts relating to that, I know that's really big for folks right now. and will be for the foreseeable future.
And we can always do in future meetings, you know, updates on the accessibility things that we've been doing and some of the settlement agreements from the Department of Justice. We can have all sorts of anything that you guys want to see on here. We're pretty open to hear about.
And Tess has put in the chat, somebody asked if there were specific neighborhoods that needed snow angels, and she said Green Valley Ranch and Montbello, as well as Westwood, Barnum, and Valverde. And then we have a question. I'd like to hear more about how Denver is looking to improve hearing accessibility in public spaces like Red Rocks. This population tends to be overlooked. Oh wait, there's more, sorry. And was in the recent renovations, referring to her hard of hearing, not deaf. Thank you. Aaron, do you want, is it Aaron? Do you have, I guess I want to know a little bit more. What do you mean that they were overlooked, or what are you hoping for at Red Rocks? What I'll say while I'm waiting to see if Aaron has more information is that Red Rocks did look into looping, I think is what it's called. And so far haven't been able to make that work, but the manager at Red Rocks has been working with a couple different companies to see if there's a way that that can work. You can get captions on your phone if that's something that you want. There's the ability to do that at Red Rocks. It said the Red Rocks renovations focused on visible physical disability. So for folks who don't know, Red Rocks is the gorgeous venue, right? It is owned by the city and county of Denver, owned and operated by the city and county of Denver. And something that is happening in the city and county of Denver is that the Department of Justice came to Denver in the 2010s to do to work on what's called Project Civic Access. So after the ADA was passed in 1990, the Department of Justice, 10, 15 years later said, let's go see how people are doing. Let's go see if cities are doing what they need to be doing to make things accessible. So they've gone to every state and visited different cities. They've come to Denver twice. And when they came to Denver in the 2010s, Denver agreed to take on the responsibility of looking at all of their facilities and mapping out all the different physical barriers that existed. And they found multiple physical barriers at Red Rocks. Some barriers are called infeasible to fix, but some barriers could be fixed and are required to be fixed. So as part of that settlement agreement with the Department of Justice, the city is fixing those physical barriers that were identified through the Project Civic Access situation. So yes, there are physical barriers that have absolutely been focused on. It is part of a settlement with the federal government, but that is not the end of the story. That's kind of just the bottom line. Like, yes, we have to fix this. Yes, we've identified that this is in violation of the ADA. There are always programmatic things that can be fixed and can be done better. So let me see. I know that Aaron put some more stuff in here. No hearing assistive technology improvements have been made. I don't want to watch a show. I want to hear it. It was the comment from Aaron. Is there a way that you're able to hear it? Is there something that Red Rocks can do that would assist in that way? What I'll say is if this doesn't get resolved today, and my guess is it's not going to get resolved, maybe Christina, can you put the disability access email in the chat? You can always send messages to us. Red Rocks also does have a person that works specifically on accessibility issues. And this is certainly a conversation that we can continue. Red Rocks, we hear a lot about. It's such a gorgeous venue and everybody wants to be able to enjoy it. So we do a lot of work to try to make that happen. So if you're not getting what you need today, and I'm thinking that you're not, because I'm not sure exactly what you're asking for, then then let's continue the conversation. I see Curtis has his hand up.
I can get off mute. Sorry. My question is, so you talked about the curb issues that Ryan talked about. I appreciate all that. Code enforcement. Seems like it's really hard to get a hold of anybody if you need a report. Like our office building is ground level of apartment building that has a lot of people with disabilities. It just seems a lot of times that whether it's road crews, there was a street sweeper that parked in it the other day. And it's funny because the parking is just right outside our window, so we can't miss it. But I tried, like 20 minutes trying to get a hold, and I never was able to get a hold of anybody. It used to be a really easy process, but now that it's going through 311, it seems to be very hard to get a hold of anybody. I mean, there was a delivery truck parked there all day one day, and then there was a road crew that had their trailer that they had their little tractory thing digging a hole down the street, and just to be able to report things like that.
Joan, I'd be happy to jump in on that one.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks, Curtis, for the question. It's a great one. I don't have the answer that everyone wants to hear. Everyone knows the state of the city. We don't have a lot of capacity right now. Our right-of-way enforcement partners, they are not fully staffed, but they are out there enforcing. What you're doing is the right thing. Make sure you're calling up 311, reporting those incidents. But there is another phone number I can give you, Curtis. It's right-of-way enforcement dispatch. And you can reach out to their dispatch directly, leave a voicemail, or give them all the information on that vehicle you're seeing out there. I'll drop in the chat, but the number is 720-913-1600. And when you make those calls, you'll need to provide like the license plate, the vehicle description, the color. The right-of-way enforcement team, they'll try to route it to an agent so they can get out there and enforce it. But as you're probably aware, by the time they get out there, that car is probably moved on, but still good to report it so they have it on their radar. Or it might, because of the cases you're putting in and all the calls with dispatch, it might prompt a more focused enforcement, like, hey, let's get in this routine. There's bad behavior here. Let's go do some focused enforcement in this area.
Along that line too, is they put bicycle lane. So on the one side of your car is the sidewalk, and then the driver's side, there's the bicycle lane is right there.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be somebody, because a lot of us have to open our car door there and have it open for extended period of time. I just wondered if there's anything we could do about that.
Yeah, that door zone's tricky for everybody. And yes, there are things that are actively being done right now. There's a design consideration happening with bike lanes and updates so that they're including a wider aisle next to protected bike lanes and the accessible parking space so you can navigate that area, or maybe you can have your door open a little more. I'm not part of that team. I just happen to know that that is consideration, and you're probably familiar with PROAG is becoming federally mandated, and so the city, we're starting to begin how we include PROAG guidance in, or formalize it in through our municipal ordinances and how we comply with the federal guidance. But right now there is no direction that we have to do that. Just in good faith, we are trying to work towards that. Did that help answer? Okay, cool. Yeah, my pleasure.
The number in the chat, that'll help a lot. Thanks.
You bet. I'll put it right in there.
And Curtis, you always feel free to reach out to the Disability Access at denvergov.org too, because we can help facilitate some of those conversations as well. And so that's in the chat. I mean, I saw Christina put that in there. So always feel free to reach directly out to us as well. Are there any other questions people have on things they want to talk about?
I'll say that Ryan did put in the right-of-way enforcement dispatch phone number in the chat, so folks will have that. And Erin did follow up with what she's hoping for at Red Rocks, and we have decided that this is a conversation that we need to continue. When we're working, our office directly works with physical accessibility and other accessibility issues at Red Rocks. Denver also is lucky to have its own Office of Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services that's led by Lori Kaczynski, and I believe that we had, did we have somebody from that office on here? Noah's on here, Noah Blankenship, and Dallas McCarthy are two folks who work in that office, and we work alongside them as they advocate for changes for folks who are deaf or hard of hearing at Red Rocks. So it's a group effort when we're looking at those improvements and issues.
And Noah or Dallas, feel free to chime in if you'd like as well. I know Red Rocks is always one of our big deals. When Allison puts that on the agenda for updates, it's always a packed house. And their presentations that Allison does have received national attention. So it's a very, very popular place and venue. People come from all over. So we want everyone to be able to enjoy it.
Yes, it's a big deal. So two things. Noah put the email address for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services office. It's deafhhservices@denvergov.org, and encouraged Aaron and other folks with the same issue to reach out to them. There's Noah coming on.
Yes, hi. Hi, it's nice to see everybody. I wish that I would like to see access improve for sure. I know that you feel free to communicate with me at any time using that email, and I'd be happy to get everything. But I know that did Allison, she's here, right? Okay, and Dallas is here. Okay, perfect. And now Dallas is up too. Perfect, perfect. So the program that we're involved when we work in the community. We have the Office of Director, like you said, Lori, we work closely with Lori Kaczynski. So we are working with being able to fix an email, through email, we are fixing a lot of the improvements that need to happen here. So feel free to email me with any questions or anything that you have. Thank you.
Thanks, Noah and Dallas. Anything you want to add, Dallas?
Yeah, I would just, like to just mirror what Noah said, that if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to us for any support. And we work closely together, and we can do our best to, improve any of the things that need to happen in the community.
Fantastic. And we can certainly have a Red Rock session, as Joan mentioned, they are popular. And I will put a plug in. Christina and I are going to be speaking at which ADA network? It's an ADA network about
Great
Red
Lakes.
Rocks.
Great Lakes.
You go ahead, Christina. You tell everybody what it is.
Yeah, Allison and I will be presenting on accessibility improvements at Red Rocks that have come post-settlement, as Allison mentioned. And this presentation will be happening later this month. It's all virtual. It'll happen on Zoom, and it's hosted by the Great Lakes ADA Center. So it's a national ADA presentation. Yeah.
And is it free, Christina and Allison?
It sure is.
So anyone can sign up.
Absolutely.
And I know they did this at the National ADA Symposium, and it was standing room only, I think. And it wasn't people spilling out everywhere. So the presentation has gotten a lot of attention.
We also gave away Red Rock stickers, and everybody likes stickers and stickers of Red Rocks. So, I just put the ADA website in the Great Lakes ADA website in the chat if folks want to check out their website, which has tons of information, and also you can register for the training there. Alicia?
Hi, everyone. Alicia Akins with Atlantis Community. Thanks so much for hosting us, y'all, today. I was wondering about updates about a couple of things I think that are very related. So both the Housing 1000 initiative and shelters. Wondering about some of the issues that shelters specifically have had assisting individuals who need help with their activities of daily living. I know we've been involved in a couple conversations, but just wanted to see if there's any update about that. And then also how y'all in your office are feeling about how the Housing 1000 initiative is going in regards to addressing the needs of individuals who might not be the most visible, but are the most vulnerable by nature of their disability. And I think both of those questions are things I think if we're talking about things we'd love to see on agendas moving forward, would love to hear about both of those things on a regular basis. And also wanting to know, as part of that question, specific ways that we can continue partnering and assisting and ensuring that the disability community is not left out in both shelters and the Housing 1000 initiative.
Sure. Thank you for that question. It has been a huge topic for us, not just this year, but probably more this year because of the increased effort that's happening to house people who are on the street. So what Alicia's bringing up for folks who don't know is ADLs or activities of daily living. And there has for years, and again this year, been an issue when somebody who is unhoused seeks emergency shelter, either on a cold night, a cold weather shelter, or just on any night. They'd like to go into a shelter and not sleep on the street that night. There is something that if they need assistance with their activities of daily living, that they can be turned away from the shelter. So we are working on that issue right now. And actually, there's other folks who are on this call who have been involved in some of those conversations as well. The way the law has been interpreted is that if somebody needs significant assistance with their ADLs, that would be considered a fundamental alteration of the work that is being done at the shelter, and that therefore the shelter would not have to provide that. There's a lot of sticking points there. One is who decides if they need significant assistance, and we've heard anecdotally that sometimes folks are turned away for things like showing up in a wheelchair or showing up with oxygen tanks. And that does not mean that they need significant assistance with their ADLs, or may not mean. I guess it depends on what their situation is, right? And so that's one sticking point that we're trying to work on, and working with outside partners to come up with the training for shelter workers so that they can better understand what is significant assistance and what is just a reasonable accommodation, right? The ADA says we have to make reasonable accommodations to allow folks to access programs or services that the city's offering. So that distinction. And then we've got the bigger issue of, okay, what if somebody really does need more significant assistance with their ADLs? What can we do there? And that's some advocacy work that we are depending on our advocacy partners to bring forward, and us to help elevate within the city to say, what can we do in that situation? There are some folks who are willing to go to hospitals, even when that may result in them ending up in long-term care. Some folks are seeking that. There are other folks who say that's absolutely what I don't want to do. So trying to balance those two different populations of folks who are seeking long-term care solutions, and folks who just need to be warm for a night and don't want to get, are fearful that they're going to get roped into that system and maybe have a hard time getting out. So that is an ongoing issue right now, very big hot topic. It's currently actually with the city attorney's office to look at ways that maybe we can advocate for some changes. And we are looking to do that training, as I said, about the difference in ADLs versus what's a reasonable accommodation. So I know that's not an exact answer, but it's saying that we are very much currently working on it. And there's so many different people and organizations involved. I had a meeting last week, and I mentioned that I had spoken to 35 different people in the city about this situation. So we're looking at people who have mental health disabilities. We're looking at people who have intellectual developmental disabilities. We're looking at people who have physical disabilities, medical disabilities, and the ways that that impacts them in trying to get shelters. As to the longer term effort, what do we think about, and before I move on, Christina and Joan have also been involved in some of those conversations, as have some of the other folks who are not even with the city. Does anybody have anything else they want to add or bring up about that issue about folks needing assistance with ADLs and trying to get into shelters?
Oops. Well, I know it's been a big topic, even, amongst, I've worked with Centers for Independent Living across the state. And of course, ensuring the shelters are accessible has been one thing, but then what do you do when someone needs those ADLs? And so that's an ongoing question that's been posed to all the Centers for Independent Living to see if there's what else we can do to ensure that individuals with disabilities are able to get into the shelters when they need to. And so it's an ongoing issue, looking at, the waiver system and looking at people who have personal care attendants that they pay privately, all those types of things working together to ensure people with disabilities in the shelters get what they need. It's an ongoing thing that we keep discussing with them, as well as trying to find solutions.
And what we have found is that if a person has a personal care attendant or a CNA or something through Medicaid, they don't go into the shelter system. Those folks don't. But we're trying to see, is there a way that the city can provide CNAs, or there are certain places that the city can provide CNAs? So right now, all ideas are on the table. And because Mayor Johnston has come in with a very clear and obvious priority for housing people, we're hoping that we're going to make some traction this year in some of those issues, which then goes right into the House 1,000. I think, or Roten, I see you just came off do you want to speak to anything about that?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Roten Liang, and I'm the ADA Architectural Access Manager. I can speak to the access portion of it. Our division has been reviewing plans as in architecture plans, and also going out to the job site to ensure that accessibility is being incorporated into the whole plan. So there's various options or methods in terms of housing, ranging from tiny homes to pallets to hotels. So and all those options we have reviewed and also inspected the conditions to make sure that the basic access is being provided. And in addition to that, our team has also been advocates to increase those numbers. The bare minimum is a certain percentage, but we always aim higher to that, because we know that the population that we serve do have a larger percentage that have disabilities. So in terms of accessibility, our division has certainly been keeping a close eye on it.
Thank you, Roten. And so, yeah, so he jumped right into the House 1,000. So we've got the sort of shelters that exist day to day and cold weather shelters that pop up. I think there's one coming, this week when we're expecting cold weather. And then there's the House 1,000. And that has involved bringing on a whole bunch of new housing resources or shelter resources for people to get off the streets. And Roten and his team have been ensuring that everything new that the city is bringing on board, as he said, not only meets the minimum for physical accessibility, but has much greater number of units that are accessible. We're aiming for about 20% of units being accessible, which is 4 times what is required by law in most cases, and to make sure that we're not saying, okay, all people with physical disabilities need to go in this one corner, and trying to make sure that it's more programmatically accessible. The second part of all of that is, what about other wraparound services? We know that our unhoused population faces a significantly higher percentage of folks who have mental health disabilities. We've been involved in the Emergency Operations Center, and we do know that those wraparound services, therapy, treatment, substance use treatment, are things that are slated to be offered at all of these different housing places or shelter places. But I think it's too early to say if they are adequate and if they're doing what they need to do, but they were they were budgeted for, and there was RFPs, and there were folks that responded. And so we do hope that those services are going to be delivered at all those different types of housing options. So far, we've seen that they are happening, but we've only housed about a little bit less than a third of what the mayor's hoping to house by even the end of this month. So we'll see what it looks like when it's scaled up.
Yeah, thanks both of you for your answers, and I'm really encouraged by the especially with the Housing 1000 initiative, the 20% mark is, as you said, Allison, far above and beyond generally what any housing we'd find accessible. Do you all know what efforts are being put into place to ensure that those accessible units are being used specifically for people who need accessible housing? I know that's when we're talking about just a general apartment building, that's one of the challenges, that we might build something accessible, but then whether or not it's actually reserved for people who actually need an accessible space is another matter entirely. Do you have any sense about what that's looking like within the Housing 1000 initiative?
So I am definitely not the expert. I've spent some time in there and been out for a while. I was back in just this week, but my understanding of how that's happening is that right now, the way the city is identifying people to move into units does include that kind of assessment. Okay, we're going to go to an encampment. We see that 4 folks at this encampment of 120 have accessibility needs, physical accessibility needs, and so then they say, okay, so we've got a hotel and we've got 6 rooms that are accessible and enough rooms for all the rest of the folks. Because the whole idea in the House 1000 is to move encampments as communities. So not say you're going to go to this community, you're going to go to this housing unit, you're going to go to this housing unit, but saying you all have chosen to live together. So we want to try to find places as much as we can for you all to stay together, and that they are trying to pair up identifying the encampments and what the needs of the encampments are, how big they are, what the accessibility needs are with the house. And I don't think they're calling it housing, with the shelter stock that's available. So I know that they're trying, but I think it would be great to have, and maybe we have one, our next town hall wouldn't be for 3 months. That's going to be pretty far down the road. Maybe we can try to have one early in the year to have some of the folks in from the mayor's office and host that are working on these issues day to day. Or you came off a video, or you came on video. I mean,
yeah, and I that's one of my heart and soul subjects. So finding, the ADL issue, because I know it's going to happen in emergency shelters too. People are going to show up in that kind of situation. You won't have a choice. The long-term care facility might be affected too. So, but one of the things that Atlantis did during COVID and the COVID response with COVID CARES funding was we were able to use some of the money. We partnered with the Reciprocity Collective to individuals that we put in hotel rooms. The Reciprocity Collective then trained other people on the house folks how to do the ADLs, and they actually then stayed in that hotel with them. Some kind of relationship like that. I mean, we don't have that funding anymore and we're not able to do it, but I would think that some kind of group effort could be made to do that. Just an idea.
We brought it up to the mayor's office last week.
Did you? Right on. And
because of you, I'm not claiming any ownership of that, because you brought that up. So,
and it's fixing it. That's all I care about. And we didn't have any zoning problems, by the way, either. So.
Yeah, that's another barrier that's been brought up, that if we bring in CNAs or we bring in personal care attendants, that changing the zoning. And that's one of the things that I mentioned is with the city attorney's office.
Yeah, and ADLs are not medical treatment necessarily. So I would think that they would be too tough. Otherwise, we'd all have to have our homes and our apartments and everything rezoned. So
I think we're on the same page, Kurt. It's certainly a hot topic. Alicia, do you have more? And actually, I think I said your name wrong. How do you say it again?
No, Alicia, you're right.
Oh, it
Yeah.
is. Okay.
No, I was just gonna say thank you for addressing our questions, and I think we'd love to hear more from the mayor's office specifically about this, if that's something that y'all are able to do. I know you're all in the midst of a big push being involved with it, but yeah, thank you.
For sure. No, I think that would be great. And I think if we go back and say that the community wants to hear from you, I think that also adds a layer of helping it rise to priority level. Anybody else have thoughts? I think I saw somebody from Host on here. I mean, I'm not putting anybody on the spot, but does anybody else have thoughts? Anybody who is working on this issue or is concerned about this issue? Fantastic. Well, I think we do have, I think that would be a great thing that for one of our next meetings, whether it's the scheduled town hall or something before that. Maybe after, hopefully we're going to have hundreds of people housed in the next couple of weeks, and we will have, maybe we'll have some lessons learned or some ideas for things that went well or improvements, because my understanding from the mayor is that it's not ending at 1,000, that the goal is to continue to get people into shelter and then into long-term housing. So I think that as we're working through it, the community's input would be valuable. All right, anything else? Joan?
I'm just ramping up to see if there was anything else on any other topics as well, or continuation of this one. I know once we get talking about some of the disability related things, we can really keep going, but you still have time. If no one else, we can talk about, there's just a few announcements like Allison has mentioned. Our next town hall will be in March, and so it'll be March 5th. And if you guys have topics, please send them my way. I will put, you can send them to Disability Access, or you can send them to me as well. And I can put that in chat, my email. Allison mentioned we have our new executive director. So Perla, we're very excited to see how that is. And, maybe we could have Perla come on and talk about her vision for what she sees with HRCP as well sometime. And then I want you guys to know this has been recorded. So those of you who were in the other room waiting, if you haven't missed anything, if you want the recording, just let me know. And I can send that off to you guys once I get notification. And we
can put the recording link into the
chat,
into the Teams chat, so that folks can see it. I think that'd be great.
Okay.
I know Noah has his hand up. What I want to say is with Perla, really exciting is Perla came from within HRCP. She was the director of the Office of Aging. So she knows all about HRCP, values the work that is being done in our agency. And she specifically has been working on this issue of older adults who need help with their ADLs and shelters. So I think that we've got a nice friendly ear in our executive director, which is fantastic.
Christina, do you want to talk about the commission meeting that's coming up after this and give everybody a
and Noah had his hand up. I don't know if he's still...
sorry. Go ahead, Noah.
Yes. Okay. So I wasn't sure if I needed to plan to mention this, but if we should just go ahead and do it. So we're talking about disabilities, and I have a disability myself. I use sign language. So recently our office and our staff interpreter stepped down, and that was a big deal. That's had a huge impact on us. And I just wanted to say that it really is a big blow to our office. I mean, there's a lot of us, there's two of us, there's two deaf people. And I mean, let me back up. Last year in February, not last year, this year in 2023, from February to July, that 5 months, I worked with Lori, my director, which is great. Everything was going great. And now with the not having the staff interpreter, Well, having the staff interpreter, we build momentum. We were able to make plans with different offices, really start working on some programs. And then when Dallas joined, we have another deaf person, 2 deaf individuals. So we're building even more. And then our staff interpreter left. And it's like, we can't continue our business, the things that we had already started. So it really has been a challenging time for our office, to be honest. So, but we've been resilient, we're strong, and we have faith. So I just wanted to say, if support for our office, to our director, Laura, and to Perla, you know, for the future of our family, of our office, the success of our agency, please share that. Share the words of, share any word of support, because, you know, we need it and we appreciate it.
So no, will that announcement, will be that job opening be posted soon?
It hasn't happened yet.
I think in the state that we're in as the city, it's taking a long time to get jobs posted, and they sort of have to go through, and you have to jump through hoops. And I think that's one reason to say that we want to offer support and say that that position is really important.
Thanks. Melanie.
Yeah, exactly. I agree, Allison. Thank you. Yeah, and it's just an ongoing thing, so we're just keeping our fingers crossed. You know, it's all very new to me, so we're just doing our best.
Well, and if you guys notice, Noah we always joke that Noah is very famous because he's always the face on TV doing some of the things with the mayor and stuff. So he's very famous in our office.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joan.
All right, Christina, do you want to talk about the commission?
Yeah, I'll give a brief plug. Right after this meeting, if anyone is into more civic engagement for the evening, the Denver Commission for People with Disabilities meets monthly. Our monthly meeting is at 5:30, so just in a couple minutes here. We will be talking a bit about meeting accessibility and just kind of just wrapping up some end of the year things because 'tis the season. But if you are looking to make your voice heard on a more routine basis, these town halls are quarterly. We love that you're here. But if you do want to, get more involved and especially lend your ear to our office and to HRCP more routinely, the Denver Commission for People with Disabilities has openings for new commissioners. I can put that commission application information in the chat. You do need to live and or work in the city and county of Denver, and be a disability advocate or have some, push to further accessibility in our community. You go through a kind of a multi-step application and interview process. But it's an exciting time, and it's a great way to just network and build camaraderie with other advocates in the city too. So if you guys are looking for an extracurricular, I will put that application information in the chat.
Thanks, Christina. And you can be a self-advocate. You don't have to be like a paid advocate. You can be a person with a disability advocating for yourself, right?
Totally.
Awesome. Any other announcements from the HRCP crew?
No, I think we covered it.
All right. Well, I'll give you guys a few minutes back into your evening, and we really appreciate you being here. We really want to hear voices of what's happening in the community and what you guys want to hear. We're very driven by the community, so we love to hear from you.
And it can be here, it can be in the email, it can be at disability access at denvergov.org. Or if you're deaf or hard of hearing, contact their office. So thank you all so much. Lots of ways to continue this conversation, and we need to. Several important things that came up today. So thank you all very much.
Have a great evening, everybody.